Hey, Doris Day. Welcome to a Thursday Collection Connection, where we're playing that game. That's just an excuse to talk about records. Today we're going to be forging a connection between the Humble Pie album, Street Rats, and the 1987 B-Sides collection from R.E.M, Dead Letter Office. Now, this is a game I play with my brother, Plastic Eric, over on the Plastic Soundwave Cults channel. Every Monday, he shows an album. Every Thursday, I show an album. And the connective tissue is that the albums have to, in some way, relate to each other. And we ask you to guess what that connection might be. And to that end, we have to reveal the last connection, which was between Tears for Fears, The Hurting, and the Humble Pie Street Rats album. And that is that Mel Collins, a session musician, played saxophone on both records. Nobody guessed it. So that point goes to us. We stumped you. And with that, let's get on with the show. All right, so it's Turkey Day here, Thanksgiving in the U.S., and I'm making this on the day, so I'm going to try and make it a quick one. So Eric talked about Humble Pie Street Rats in his last video. He mentioned the Beatles covers of We Can Work It Out and Drive My Car, but even he overlooked a third Beatles cover, Rain, and the covers were such thorough reworkings of the songs that had I not known going in that they were covers of Beatles songs, that I wouldn't have even picked up on it in the kind of passive listening that I've had to do in the quick turnaround between just finding out on Monday, late Monday, what his pick was, and trying to put this video out today on a Thursday. I just listened through it one time, but like I said, I was listening for the covers, and it was more the lyrics than it was anything about the melody or the arrangement or anything like that that tipped me off when I was finally listening to one of these covers. And the sum total of it was very 70s music to me, the sort that if it came on the radio, I wouldn't necessarily switch it off, but it's not going to perk my ears up either. I thought that maybe the Beatles covers would do that for me, but yeah, Eric wasn't lying. They do not sound like the Beatles versions. It's strange that it is not thematically anything. It just seemed to be their latest album, and apparently maybe did poorly enough that they broke up for a time after that album, and took 4 or 5 years, and Steve Marriott then reassembled a new version of Humble Pie to record a few albums in the 80s and move forward from there. But this was the last, not original lineup, because as Eric mentioned, Peter Frampton had already left. There may have been multiple lineup changes already, but they were consistently recording and touring up through Street Rats, after which they broke up, took a break, however you want to look at it. And I don't know if it was artistically unsatisfying to them. It feels like when you're that heavy on covers, and I don't know if Humble Pie did a lot of covers on every album, but doesn't feel particularly inspired, I guess. I was impressed that I was able to come up with a connection to the thing that I noticed about the Street Rats album. Fairly unique, and so I'm impressed that I was able to come up with one, and that was R.E.M's Dead Letter Office. Now, this is in the vein of some of the types of albums that we have featured recently, except I think going in, since it is explicitly a B-side collection, not a mainline album, definitely geared toward a completionist or a hardcore fan. This was IRS squeezing a little bit extra out of the towel right as R.E.M was switching from IRS, where they had been through Document, onto Warner Brothers with Green. They put out both Eponymous, which I love as a name for their greatest hits up to that point, or singles collection, maybe not all hits exactly. Yeah, interesting to me that instead of doing a A-sides and B-sides thing, they had 2 separate releases Eponymous and Dead Letter Office. I know that R.E.M. tended to be pretty loose with their B-sides. It was almost an ethos with them that, I don't know, it wasn't so much that these songs aren't good enough for the album, but this was stuff that was captured while we were messing around in the studio, including some spontaneous covers where clearly they have no charts and no lyric sheet and are just performing what it is that they remember from the song. They do a cover of Roger Miller's King of the Road, where they basically just, Michael Stipe repeats the first verse, sort of, and then the chorus, and gets it wrong every time. It's a man of means by no means, but he says, I'm a man of man by no means. And so it's clearly just what they remember of the song as they break into it off the top of their heads with the tape machines rolling, and if they thought it had some charm, or probably just some charm, not necessarily artistic merit, sometimes these things would show up as B-sides. They also covered Aerosmith's Toys in the Attic, which is fun, as well as a Pylon song, Pylon being a band that was sort of a contemporary of theirs in the Georgia music scene at the time. And Pale Blue Eyes is another one, the Velvet Underground, that seems some spontaneous, that they took this 6-minute song and knocked it out in about 2 minutes because they couldn't remember the verses, I'm assuming. And just kind of start in the middle of the song. It's a shame because I think it would be interesting if they took that as inspiration to say, hey, that was fun. Let's actually do a studied cover of it. Let's figure out how we would play it and get actually all the words and put together a full cover. But instead it's just kind of an instant B-side where, hey, look at that. We recorded a song and we weren't even trying to, and there you go. There are some more complete ones. I think Burning Down is a good one. Maybe their very earliest B-sides were more rejected tracks that were finished than just kind of studio shenanigans. And the CD includes their Chronic Town EP in its track listing. It's stuck on the end there, which was not on either the cassette or the album version, and that's probably the primary thing that makes this essential. And so it was an easy way for latecomers like me to get Gardening at Night and Wolves Lower. That's on there at the end, which is fun. But yeah, it's by no means, now I got King of the Road lyrics in my head, by no means an essential release. It is just kind of there, and it's something that I haven't listened to in ages and ages. I did a catalog review of the studio albums of R.E.M. with a friend of mine, not on YouTube, not in a video format, but in a written format, and listened extensively to R.E.M., all of their studio albums. But even at that time, I skipped over this, but I do have it. I also have a 90s sort of similar collection called In the Attic that IRS put out. I think it's still on IRS. That included just a couple of tracks off of here. It included Crazy and I'm forgetting which other one. I forget, but a couple that I had to pull back to listen to in order to sort of recreate the album. But that's the first time since like 2016, sometimes going all the way back to 2009, that I had played some of these tracks. So it's the definition of a non-essential album. But you know that going in, and I think that just that affects your willingness to listen to it and the amount of rope you're willing to give it. Whereas if it's something that feels sort of unfinished and is released as a new album, I have a lot less patience for that. If it feels like an idea that was just kind of kicked out in 5 minutes, but here they are gleefully throwing out as B-sides, ideas that just fell into place, sort of. It is very loose, very sloppy in places, and as they figure out the chords for King of the Road, you can hear Mike Mills in the background yelling out F, G. But that said, it's fun. There's some stuff on here that is fun to listen to, but nothing you'd really want to listen to as a full album unless you were just gorging on R.E.M. I'm not a big enough fan that that's something I ever want to do, just immerse myself from sun up to sundown with R.E.M.'s music. As much as I enjoy and admire them, they've never been a favorite band, but they've been a good enough band that I basically got all of their releases. But I'm trying to keep this quick, so with that all said, I will throw Dead Letter Office from R.E.M. 1987 IRS Records over to Eric, and he will try to find a connection within his music collection, and he will show that next Monday, so you can look forward to that. And if you think you have an idea what the connection is between Humble Pie's Street Rats and R.E.M.'s Dead Letter Office, I more or less spelled it out, I think, over the course of the video. But you might just know it if you're familiar with the album, but if not, leave a guess down in the comments, and the first one to get it right will get a shout out in the next video. If nobody gets it right, then that's an extra piece of turkey for me, and that's it. So if you're in the US, hope you're having a happy Thanksgiving, and that's all I got. So thanks for watching. Bye-bye.